Hey, welcome to Prairie Lakes Church. We are so glad that you're joining us this weekend, no matter what chair you're in at any one of our campuses or online campus. Great job making this a priority in your life. I'm really grateful for that. Hey, let's right now get a Bible ready, okay? You can use your phone if you want to. YouVersion is a terrific Bible app, or get your regular Bible out. And also get a pen and a notebook and get ready to go, because I'll tell you in a little bit, it's going to be like a little bit of a fire hydrant this weekend. So we're really glad you're here. Hey, before I get going down the message, I just want two very quick things. Number one, your campus host or campus pastor just got done thanking you for your generosity and encouraging your giving. And I just want to say thank you. And here's where this really comes into play. As all of you know, we had this major weather event across a major portion of Iowa this week. And many of you were affected deeply by it. And it's going to be felt for a while. But I'm so proud of this, that we have an emergency response team. We have a trailer that's ready to go. And as soon as that thing went through, our teams were on the ground ready to go. And I'm just telling you, for your generosity, right? Your generosity allows us to be ready for that. That's something that we can't do alone, but we can do together. So I want to say thank you for that. One more quick shout out, okay? Hey, to our Grinnell campus, Pastor Phil and Corey and Emery. Man, you guys did such a great job. You were the hands and feet of Jesus this week in the middle of an emergency. Our campus was open. You guys were providing meals and providing internet and air conditioning. And I tell you, that's what we want. We want, when the community needs help, we want them to look at Prairie Lakes Church for the help, because we're going to bring it to them. And just one more little quick shout out. Corey at our campus, she had her home open. She got electricity before most people did. She literally had a bed and breakfast going. People were washing their clothes. They're taking showers. They're giving their kids baths because they didn't have any hot water anywhere else. And she just opened her home up. And I tell you, that's what being Jesus like. So Grinnell campus, Grinnell staff, way to go. In fact, all of our campus, give them a hand right now. Way to go. Good job, Grinnell. We're really proud of you. All right, so let's crack here. Okay, so we're doing a new series, and it's entitled this, Don't Forget the Why. Now, it's crucially important, right, that you know the why behind what you do. Because when you're told to just do something or not do something, if you're anything like me, it never lasts. And if you're anything like me, you're probably going to do the opposite of that if I don't understand the why behind it. It almost always leads to negative results. For example, when you have a teacher that can give you the why behind what you're learning, it makes learning more fun. I hated Algebra 2 in high school. I hated it. Sorry, math teachers, I'm really sorry. Algebra 2 is awesome for everybody else. I hated it because here's what the teacher did. He just droned on from the front, and he never got the why behind it. I remember sitting there going, why do I need to learn this? And he could never, ever say that. But I had other teachers throughout all of my career, all the way through my master's, that when they could get to the why behind it, man, it just made all the difference, right? So for instance, I love history. In fact, I was a history major in part. And I loved history because I had early history teachers in high school who said, it's just not about the dates. It's figuring out why this happened and what we can learn from it. Because if we can learn from it, then maybe we won't repeat it again in the future. And that was enough for me, right? I played sports all my life, football all through college. And when you know the why behind what your assignment is, whether you're on playing basketball or volleyball or baseball or wrestling, whatever it is, but if you know the why behind what you're supposed to do and how it fits with everything else, it makes it so much easier. On my team in college, we had this one guy. He was huge, and he was just an animal. But he was dumber than a box of rocks. And he would just do his own thing all the time. He just would. And so all the defenses slanting one way, and he'd slant the other way. But when you figure out the why, playing your part, and you understand how it fits in the whole, man, it just makes everything work better. Here's another really good example of needing to know the why. You know, for years, here's the church's stance, here's the Bible stance, here's the Jesus stance on sex, right? Don't do it before you're married. Now, if we just stop it, don't do it, right? It doesn't work. But when we can begin to give the why behind it, because that's a gift from God, and He designed it a certain way, and it goes to the deepest parts of our souls, and it's a picture of Jesus in the church, and it's a two becoming one, and it's so much deeper than what they want to tell us today, that it's just a physical act, right? But when you get the why behind it, and you can understand that, the chances are you're going to follow that beautiful word from God. So, guys, listen to me. The PLC strategy is this. We want to help you become the person God created you to be, a no-matter follower. And to help with that, we've got a strategy called our next steps. And we've talked about these before. They're at every campus. We do them all the time. But remember what they are. Attend regularly, serve purposefully, connect relationally, give generously, and invite boldly. Right? And here's what we know. Here's what we know. These are ongoing rhythms that help you increasingly love and obey Jesus to grow as a no matter a follower. See the action, see the movement, see the always moving on with these, ongoing, increasingly, and grow. And these next steps, these are these ongoing rhythms, because here's what we want desperately for you. We want you to be a no matter follower that makes a difference in your little Iowa and in our big Iowa. And so here's why we're doing this series, and here's where we're going to go. To have a why behind each of these is absolutely crucial. Because if you're going to live this radically different lifestyle in front of your little Iowa, you better know the why. You have to. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to zero in on the very first one this week. And here's what it is. Attend regularly. Every week matters. Why? Now listen, I'm going to give you 8 whys. So we're just going to go and we're going to just nail them out here, okay? So attend regularly because every week matters. So why should I attend regularly? Why does every week matter? Why should I show up, whatever chair I'm sitting in, at a campus, online, wherever I'm at, on vacation, at home, if I'm sick, if I'm wherever I'm at? Why is it important to attend regularly? All right. So here's the first one. Number 1. Because God literally designed us this way, okay? Now, I'm going to give you the first 3 are Sunday school answers, so just bear with me, okay? Literally, God designed us this way. Just think of creation just for a second. Think back to God creating the world in 6 days and go back to that passage. Here's Genesis 2, and it says this. Here's what the author says. He says, by the 7th day, God had finished the work he'd been doing, so on the 7th day, he rested from all his work. Now, he didn't rest because he was tired, right? Because God's not going to get tired. But he was modeling to us. He was building into the rhythm of the universe what he built into each of us. Then God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. So just sit with me for a minute on this one, okay? When we say, man, every week matters, attend regularly, because God literally designed us this way, in the fabric of the creation of the universe, God said there needs to be a time that you set aside intentionally and make it different. In fact, later, when God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, remember this one? Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy? So even as God said, here's how you can work together and live as a community and as a nation and as a family, he only gave them 10. And one of the 10 had this baked into it. It's literally embedded into our human need. You and I both know what happens if we go and never stop. You and I both know what happens if we get consumed with our jobs and forget our families, our children, and we forget our spirit. You and I both know what happens. We get consumed by a habit. We get consumed by a person. We get consumed by an activity. We all know what happens there. And it never ends well. And that's why God said, listen, I need you every week to stop. I need you every week to stop and be intentional about this. It may be, for some of us, it may be the only hour that you set aside for God and spend all week with him. It shouldn't be that way, but for some of us, that's the only one you're going to do. So I think it's a great idea that you give him some intentional room. It was the rhythm practice put in place by the rhythm maker himself. And when you fight the rhythm, you simply get tired. And one of the reasons you may feel tired in your spirit, one of the reasons you may feel worn out by people and life, is that you're not setting this aside, that you're not giving in and submitting to the design. So here's the first reason, because God literally designed it this way. Here's the second reason why attend regularly matters. Because Jesus, I know, Jesus juke, right? Because Jesus. Okay, now listen. Jesus was fully God, while at the same time being fully man. Jesus got tired, got hungry, got frustrated, laughed, cried, walked, ran, talked, right? Jesus was fully human, okay? And if there was anybody ever on the face of the earth that could say, you know what, I can skip this Sunday thing. I don't need any part of this thing called the church. I could just go ahead and go around that because, I'm Jesus. He could have done that. But Jesus didn't do that. Do you know what Jesus did? Check this out. Luke tells us, talking about Jesus, he says he went to Nazareth where he had been brought up. And on the Sabbath day, he went into the synagogue, that was their church, as was his, what's it say? Custom. In other words, that was his rhythm. That's what Jesus always did. That was him. And if Jesus needed that hour, if Jesus needed that time, if Jesus needed to set it aside and be a regular and have that a part of his rhythm, how much more so for us? I know some of you have friends, and some of you may actually say this. I don't need church. The river's my church. When I go hunting, that's my church. And I'm saying, hey, listen, I'm all in, right? I see God in nature, and that's some of my best times with God are when I'm alone with him. So I'm not arguing against that, but here's the problem. It's not your church. Okay, that's not what it is. Setting aside this 1 hour a week, setting aside this time when you're intentionally saying, here I am, God. We do it not only because it's designed into the system by God himself, but Jesus, the King of the universe, actually practiced the same thing that he asked us to. Okay, here's number 3. Because the Bible, man, I am so Sunday school right now with you, right? I'm so Sunday school. Well, because God did it and Jesus and Bible, okay? Now, follow with me here and catch this. Every single book in the New Testament, they're called letters, right? It assumes that Christians are regularly attending local churches. The letters themselves are addressed to local churches. They teach us how to get along with each other. They teach us how to encourage each other. They teach how to conduct ourselves in church and outside of church. They teach us how to love our de-churched and disconnected friends. They command us to submit to our elders and encourage us to go to our elders to pray, right? All these things that the Bible teaches, all of them are in the context of this thing called the church. You can't do it without attending the church. In fact, this was so important that later, the author of Hebrews, we're not sure who he was. Some say it was Paul, but we don't think it was Paul. But the author of Hebrews, he wrote this, and he said, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching, not giving up meeting together. Don't be one of the some. Don't do it. In fact, this was so vital that in this letter of the New Testament, it answers the question that's been given from Genesis to Revelation. Does this really matter? And it absolutely does. It's crucial. You literally can't practice Christianity without this thing called the church. Now, can you be a Christian? Yes. But you can't practice it without the church. So if you treat church like a coin flip, if you treat attending like, well, what's the priority this weekend? We've got this and we've got that. And I know there are lots of priorities, right? But if church on the weekend is just another one of your priorities and it becomes a coin flip every week, that's the exact opposite of what the Bible teaches. All right, so knowing the why is crucial. Now, I've given you 3 beautiful Sunday school answers. Now, let's take it a little farther. Here's number 4, okay? Number 4. Why should I attend regularly? Why should I do it? Because what we feed grows. What we feed grows. Now, we're still in the middle of this pandemic. We're kind of out of the lockdown for the most part. And some of you have been feeding very well, and you've been growing as a result of what you've been feeding, right? All of us have. There's like the pandemic 15 that's going on. Some from the pandemic 30, right? So just catch this for a minute with me. As you live throughout your day, whether you're a student or whether you're an at-home mom or whether you're at work at night or during the day, you're outside, you're inside, here's what happens every day. We are bombarded with messages, right? Messages. Every hour you're being shaped, informed, and preached to by all kinds of messaging. You're being fed messaging every moment that are growing and shaping you. That's what they're designed to do. Think of the messages that you've received this week. Most of them, some of them you didn't even intend to, but they just come to you, right? Everything from what we should eat to what we should be, to what we should do, to what we should wear, to what we should buy, to what we should get. The messages we've been hearing this week, every one of them is designed to shape your preference. Every one of them is designed for you to feed something that grows something in you. And just for a minute, just consider it for a minute. You're bombarded with messages, many of which are the exact opposite of what the Bible would teach. Many of which would tell you that you're not enough, or you're too much, or you should be this, or you should be that. All designed to bring you dissatisfaction. All designed, right, to feed you, so to shape you to grow in a certain way. My brother Doug, who lives in Kansas City, he used to work for Coca-Cola. And he was the guy that went and kind of did some accounts and all that. And this was years ago now, but they signed with a major university. I think it was Kansas. And what they did was they became like the sole provider of soft drinks on the campus. And they paid KU like $20 million. I don't remember the figure. $20 million, $25 million, something like that. I remember talking to my brother and I was saying, dude, how? You got to sell a lot of Coke to make that up. And he goes, oh no, we'll lose money on that. That's not what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. Messaging. We are shaping future preference through messaging that we're the best. $20 million. Shape future preference. Now, listen to me. The messaging that you receive 24 hours a day for 7 days a week, almost all of them are going to push you somewhere you don't want to be. Think of the message you're intentionally consuming from Netflix and YouTube, stuff that you're actively consuming, the messages. All of them are designed to shape us and grow us and move us to things and places to be. My friends, 1 hour ought to be different, at least. From Psalm 73, the psalmist, he was, if you go to it this week and read it all, but he's kind of looking at life and he's going, look at the message that I'm receiving. Here's the message that I'm getting. And the message is this: the people who are bad are prospering. And I don't know why that happens. And good people who are trying to do the right thing, they're not prospering. And he's looking around and he sees evil and he's just bombarded, right? He's bombarded in ancient times with all these messages from his society. And here's what he says. When I tried to understand all this, it troubled me deeply, right? Till I entered the sanctuary of God. Then I understood their final destiny. Do you see what just happened there? He said, man, the world was just bombarding me. I didn't get it, but when I stopped, when I took that hour, when I set it aside, when I went into the sanctuary, when I got to the word and the worship, then my perspective changed. We need 1 hour to hear the messaging from Jesus, who loves us and absolutely wants what's best for us. Absolutely wants what's best for you. And you need to hear that at least 1 hour every week. All right, so let's go to number 5. Number 5, why does it matter that we attend regularly? Why should we do this? Because we need to see others with different eyes. We need to see others with different eyes. We need to see people with different viewpoint, with a different view, right? We need our eyesight challenged all the time. I do, you do. We need this to happen, okay? Whether you know it or not, you're probably aware of this, but you and I, we make snap judgments all the time. We put people in categories. We snap them out of our picture, right? We put them and label them. We lay stereotypes on top of them. We write them off. We hold grudges. We don't forgive. We won't include them, right? We do this all the time. All the time. And it's so ingrained in us that I've got to do something to make myself better than that person. So I'm either going to say something or do something, or at least act that way, or at least feel that way inside of me, right? And so we have this view of people, and so many of us walk around, and the main eyesight that we have is this critical, judgmental viewpoint that has to be challenged. And when you show up and you walk into a No Matter church, you get challenged. You get challenged to see things differently. Let's all right now turn to Luke chapter 7, okay? Real quickly, Luke chapter 7. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and in Luke chapter 7, we have this quick picture. I want you just to see this, okay? So there's a contrast between People that are seeing the same thing, but they have a different eyesight. They have a different picture of what they're seeing. So it says in verse 36 of Luke chapter 7, it says this: when one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. Don't you just love that about Jesus? The Pharisees, they were for some of them were real different, right? They were very legalistic, very judgmental. But here's Jesus. Whether you were far from God or supposedly near from God, or whether you were one other side, Jesus was there. He was there. And it says a woman in town who'd lived a sinful life. That's code for, you can make it code for whatever. Learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, so she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. And then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume with them. And here's one angle. When the Pharisees who had invited him saw this, they said to themselves, if this man were a prophet, he would know who's touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she's a sinner. But you go read the rest of the story, and Jesus has a different picture. He sees somebody who needs much forgiveness, and since she received much forgiveness, she's going to give much love. My friends, listen, just listen. One of the things that happen when you show up week after week after week after week, and you get your eyesight challenged, to love people, to see them differently, to see them the way Jesus sees them. It's going to make a difference in our state. It's going to make a difference in your town. And it's going to make a difference in your family. Why should I show up regularly? Because here's what happens. My eyesight gets challenged. I need to see other people with different eyes. When I regularly attend the No Matter Church, right? When I regularly show up and I see it lived out in front of me, when I see it talked about, when I'm reminded to live it out, when I'm seeing this grace and truth, this battle that we have to kind of uphold both of these things, right? When I see that, it forces me to see people with Jesus' eyes rather than Pharisee eyes. When I go to a No Matter Church, when I attend regularly, helps me see people differently. Here's number 6. Here's the 6th reason. Getting tired. Because what we model gets repeated. Why should you attend regularly? Why should this be a priority? Why? Because what we model, it gets repeated. I've been around a long time now, right? I've been in ministry for 30 years. I'm at that stage, right? I'm at that stage where I'm actually marrying kids that I saw being born, okay? Or dedicated them, okay? Or went to the hospital to visit them, right? I've buried grandparents and parents and children from the same families. You want an observation that I have? Is that there's a lot of times that what the children do is exactly what the parents did. And what the parents did is exactly what the grandparents did. I've seen generational dysfunction and sin just cycle through in my 30 years of doing this. We all have. You know what I'm saying. And we know it works in the negative, and we know it works in the positive. When we're modeling this church thing to our kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews, right? It doesn't mean go to church and check the box and you're good, right? It doesn't mean that. But when you model this attending as a lifeblood, right? When it's more than just I'll go sometimes when I want to, or I'll go to check the box off, right? If it's more than that, and it becomes this lifeblood for you, and it begins to change the way you view the world and the way you view yourself and the way you view your family, here's what happens, right? Here's what happens. When your kids and your grandkids and your nieces and nephews, when they see it, right, when they see it's important to you, when they see the rhythm in your life, the chances are higher that it'll be important to them when it's their turn to lead. Dads, you're called to lead your families. And if this has been an area that you've been falling short in because there are other things that are more important, it's time to lead differently. Parents together model this for your kids, for generations. It's the modeling of a no matter follower, right, that was shaped by a no matter church. I want nothing more for my grandkids. I want nothing more for my grandkids. I don't care if they're rich or they're poor. But I want them to know Jesus, and I want them to love this thing called the church. I want to be no matter followers who help other people find and know Jesus. That's what I want. That's all I want for my grandkids. And my friends, you're modeling right now. You're modeling. You're modeling for it. And it's not just your family, right? For those of you who have this friend group, you need to know this. Your friends, they're watching you. Let me just tell you a very quick story about this and how this works. Several years ago, we had a large group of football players from you and I that came here. And it was a large group of them. But it started with two guys, Ben Schmidt and L.J. Fort. L.J. Fort now is in the NFL and plays, but let me just tell you about these guys. They would show up in church regularly. Didn't matter if it was training camp or two-a-days or where they'd played. They wouldn't get home till 3 in the morning. And a tough loss. Easy to sleep in or go get iced, right? Easy. But they'd show up, and the result of that was dozens and dozens of players followed them. And for several years after that, the legacy of their commitment just melted, just streamed out to their friends. What we model gets repeated. Mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, aunt, uncle, friend. What are you modeling? When you attend regularly, it matters. Here's the seventh. Because it shows the world our unity in our diversity. It shows the world our unity in our diversity. Listen, we're in crazy times, and rightfully so, okay? Rightfully so for some of it. But the emphasis is on diversity, the emphasis on how we're different. The church is the only place that really comes and says, hey, listen, the we is greater than the me. That our unity is made beautiful by our diversity, but it's our unity that we're going for. It's the gathering of us, right? It's the gathering of us. Because when we gather together and you attend regularly, what you're showing the world is this, is that even though we are different colors and we come from different places and we have different backgrounds and different checkbooks and different jobs, and some of us talk different, like those people from Texas, they talk different. And then those people from Minnesota, they talk different. We don't care, right? What we're showing is not how different we are, but how the difference brings us together in unity under Jesus. 1 Corinthians 12 is one of those places in the Bible. There's 3 or 4 of these spots that talks about the body. And in verse 12, Paul says this, just as the body, though one, right? The body is, one cohesive unit, right? Has many parts. But all its many parts form one body. So it is with Christ. And he says in verse 20, go down, he says, as it is, there are many parts, but one body. One body. See, this church, we're called to a higher purpose and calling that overrides my innate selfishness. It just does. It's the 1 hour we focus on what unites us instead of what divides us. Our strength is not because we're different from each other. Our strength comes from our unity under Jesus together. We are united. And every time we gather, when it becomes a part of your rhythm, here's what happens. Here's what happens. The world sees our unity and our diversity. Here's the last one, number 8, very quickly. Because it challenges my blind spots. Why should I attend regularly? Because I'm blind to my blind spots. I do things sometimes I don't even know I do. I think things sometimes that I shouldn't think. I do things sometimes I just shouldn't do. And I'm blind to them. I am. And I need the perspective of others who are further along the road in Christ's likeness than I am. We're prone to minimize our own faults and focus on others. And this is the one place where you can be challenged and have some accountability. This is the one place we're going to say, you know what, that's not okay. And here's why. We're going to be the one place, right? I need to be challenged. Just in this last series, right, on the Lord's Prayer, Jesse started it out, and he did the first part of the prayer, and I'm sitting right back there, and here's the part that grabbed me when he said this. He said, when you're trying to have your prayer make you look good, then your prayer is good for nothing. And that just struck me. I got to pray a lot. I'm in some place. Hey, you pray. You're the pastor. I'm like, what? Right? But when I pray to look good, my prayer is good for nothing. That challenged me. Last week when Pastor Chip hit forgiveness, I was sitting online, and I was sitting there. And two people came to my mind that I have work to do with. We need to be challenged. We need to have our blind spots challenged. Matthew 7, Jesus, he says this. He says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? And then he says this. This is Jesus now, right? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, then you'll see clear to remove the speck from your brother's eye. My friends, here it is. Here it is. When you attend regularly, you get challenged regularly on your blind spots. And when you get challenged regularly on your blind spots, you can love people differently. You can actually be a no-matter follower. Attend regularly. Grab a chair every week because it matters. It matters that you increasingly love and obey Jesus to grow as a no-matter follower. Attend regularly, and it'll change you and the generations to come. Let's pray right now. Father, you're good to us. We are grateful. And would you do in us right now, would you seal in us this decision, this priority, this step on our journey to being no matter followers. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.